So here's a frameshift mutation that scrambled a piece of DNA, and it has produced something that gets transcribed into a protein, and just by chance, it had the ability to partially break down nylon. And then, of course, natural selection kicks in, refines it, makes it better and better, again, recorded in the plasmid, and that's how you make a new enzyme. Okay, so let me just wrap it up here. Here's what I want to get across. Nature's not an engineer. There's no design involved. There's no intent or purpose demonstrated in any of these things. That what we find is complexity in living creatures because largely they're a product of chance. Chance filtered by natural selection. Chance events are refined and made better progressively by the operation of natural selection. There are also a lot of other phenomena that I haven't talked about here. If you're a developmental biologist, you might be familiar with these. That we also find things like modularity and multifunctionality, this incremental tinkering and contingency. There's a history to these things that shapes what they do. All of these factors work together to produce complex organisms without design, without intent, which completely invalidates the entire intelligent design creationist argument, because that's not one of the premises we accept. We can build complexity in ways without a mind behind it. So I'll just leave you with one important take-home message, because I understand there are some atheists here, maybe a few. I want to tell you that this is a pro-atheist message, that what I've just told you, that what we can see is that the way to decipher the world is to use these processes, reason, evidence, critical thinking, and that we understand that the nature will work as a process of naturalism. The best way to explain things is by natural processes, describing what can actually happen. We don't invoke angels. This is the way atheists work. We also question everything. So when you see a problem, what you do is you try and dig deeper, try and analyze what's going on there. Now, this is not exclusive to atheists. I would not say that at all. That many good religious people also practice these things, and we are to applaud them when they do. The problem is that many religious people also believe in these things. And I'm sorry, but if you believe in angels, you are not doing it on the basis of reason, evidence, or critical thinking. Tradition and dogma are what are making you believe in those sorts of things. And I'm sorry, that stuff over there, that's silly. Okay. This stuff over here, useful. These are the kinds of values that we as atheists, agnostics, skeptics, I would say also deists, free thinkers of all sorts, should value and should promote. And those are in contradiction to the values, the specific details that people invoke in the name of religion, in the name of their faith. And faith itself is something that we ought to oppose. And so I'll leave you there. And I'll just mention the last word I brought up here over on the left, question. It is fine to question me. You can disagree with me. When I do these Q&A sessions, they usually wander far afield. Feel free to ask me anything. And it's okay if you ask me something that isn't even anything I talked about here. I'll turn you loose. Okay, feel free, raise a hand. Yes?
Yeah, when you were talking about the channel information, you said there were random strings of DNA with random mutation applied to them, and by selection, they improved in some way.
Yes.
What was the selection mechanism?
Oh, they were just selecting for sequences that most closely approximated a sequence that fit a receptor.
Okay. This was an artificial selection.
Yes. So what they were looking, so this is a receptor that binds to a specific 4-nucleotide sequence. So I think they were working with 256 nucleotide long fragments, and they were asking how many copies of this particular sequence could emerge, this a nucleotide sequence could emerge in that string.
Okay. I'm having a hard time understanding how that argument, you know, if I was to take the other side, I would say that was that that intelligence making the selection? It wasn't
No. You aren't, no, but you are getting at a common argument that they use. That there are a lot of software projects out there right now to simulate evolution. Tira is one, there's some others, where what they do is they model the whole system, and they ask, okay, can we without imposing rules on it, if we just ask, things like, will it fit, will they interact in particular ways, can we get progressive increases in information, and they do. But what the creationists will argue as well, the programmer was the intelligence who designed the whole system. And yes, the programmer designed the whole system, but the selection regime is not carried out intelligently. It's not somebody picking and choosing. There's no mysterious Maxwell's demon in there going in and saying, well, this is the sequence that works. It's just asking whether it fits. Yes?
A creationist favourite is that there are no transitional fossils. Where does it come from, and can you refute it?
You just show them one. And then they close their eyes and go, la, la, la. Yeah, it's, no, that's a really common one. And that one's tough to deal with because we've got so many. I mean, for instance, just think of Tiktaalik. Tiktaalik is a transitional between fish and amphibians. And it was predicted, not the specific details, but the general morphology was predicted. It was predicted where it was going to be found. And paleontologists like Neil Shubin went up to the Canadian Arctic and dug around, and they found it. And it is a nice intermediate. When you show this to creationists, they are actively denying it. What they often do is they say, they have an imaginary picture of what a transitional should look like, and it should look like my tie, which has a crocoduck on it, if you haven't seen it. Where what you have to find is a perfect chimera, where the front half is one animal, the back half is another. And of course, that's not the way organisms evolve. What you instead find is a mosaic of characters that over time you see populations shifting in the frequency of the expression of these characters, and that's how you get a transition. But yeah, you got to go right back to the fundamentals of that basic to get it across to them. Yes?
And what was the banana thing you were on about?
Oh. Well, if you look on YouTube for Ray Comfort and banana, what you will discover is this eye-opening video in which Ray Comfort argues that the banana was designed because it fits your hand perfectly and has a nice little handle pop top that you can peel, that it changes color to tell you when it's ripe, all these kinds of things. And he's saying this is all designed by God for your purposes. The counter-argument, of course, is the modern banana is the product of artificial selection. Bananas in the wild look nothing like that. And the best argument I've heard against the whole it fits perfectly in your hand is it also fits perfectly in your butt or your vagina. Yes, right. Apparently God endorses sodomy. Yeah.
Professor Myers, us atheists, skeptics, and agnostics have many representatives these days, such as yourself, evolutionary biologist Rich Dawkins, Sam Harris, and Vanity Fair columnist Christopher Hitchens. Going back through the pages of history, I can think of only two figures skeptical towards religion: Charles Darwin and Thomas Paine. My question, Professor Myers, is why are we having this conversation about the existence of God now? Why didn't it really happen before?
Well, there were others. I mean, Dolbeck and others. There were, yeah, Thomas Jefferson was a serious doubt. There's lots of people who were doubters of various stripes. I think Dawkins actually explained it that evolution made it intellectually respectable to be an atheist, because before Darwin, you had that one major stumbling block, which is where did we come from? It wasn't obvious. We are complex. We agree with the creationists on that. How did something so complex arise? And what Darwin did is provided a natural explanation that allowed us to understand how we could have arisen. And then again, that it did not require a supernatural agent to do that. And that kind of knocked one of the last